what inspired you to start Louisiana Law Lady?
I just wanted to bring in my own cases and establish my own book of business. You know, I would make more money if I originated the case.
Right, that's how it is here too.
I wanted some security as well to know that I could bring in business if I needed to, and I didn't have to rely on somebody else. But I was very happy at the firm.
Welcome to Above the Legal Limit. I'm your host, Justin Chopin, business owner, lawyer, dad, world's best husband, traveler, and adventure seeker. On this podcast, we mix business with pleasure. We'll dive into growth strategies, entrepreneurial adventures, the business of law, and prove that business isn't boring. So let's get ready because we are going above the legal limit. Hey, welcome to Above the Legal Limit. I've got a special guest here today. Super excited to talk to you, Lauren Pilié with Louisiana Law Lady.
Yes, that's right.
Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So we were just talking, as I do, before we get started on the podcast. You were telling me that you started your own firm.
Yes, 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks
so
ago.
It is fresh.
It is fresh. So you got a, soft spot in my heart because I also did that 10 years ago. And I remember those first 2 weeks. In fact, I was actually just looking the other day because I knew this was our 10th year, but I didn't really know. I always say September 1st is the anniversary of the firm. And the Secretary of State corrected me. It was like, no, it was the 23rd. Mm-hmm. And then I often think to myself, what the fuck was I doing for 23 days? Because I know it was September 1st. So I remember those first 2 weeks. And I remember, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I really didn't know. And so I'd love to hear how you're going, how you're getting started, what you're doing. I'll tell you from my perspective, my first 2 weeks, I took over the nursery that became my office. Like we had that like little tiny back bedroom that was reserved for child number 2. He came in a different house, but in that house, we always kind of knew, with like a cheap Office Depot kind of desk that my wife bought for me. And it was weird because I was the breadwinner. I had been a defense attorney for better part of 10 years. And she had now transitioned from like school teacher to law student to law clerk. And now she's the lawyer. She's the breadwinner. And I started with nothing. Like I didn't have any cases. I had, the 2 that the guy called me about. So I had 2 cases this guy called me about and 3 or 4 Oil Pollution Act cases. And then I would like wake up, and be like, all right, I'm working today. I don't know on what. And, you're like sitting in that back bedroom with like a cup of coffee in your boxers, like just like drinking coffee, trying to figure out like, okay, how do I start a law firm? How do I start a business? How do I be a plaintiff's lawyer? Because I hadn't really even done that. You have the advantage. So you already know all this stuff. I didn't know shit. And so I remember, looking up and it'd be like 3:00. And like the whole day had gone by and I still haven't gotten dressed or brushed my teeth. And we're like, oh, this is like, Justin, you're a mess. Like you can't do it this way. And so I quickly moved downtown and sublet a space. That was a big pivotal moment in the firm. It was within 3 or 4 weeks, and honestly, that opportunity came to me. I didn't start calling around. I don't even know that I had the foresight to even think about it. I was just, somebody called me and said, hey, I saw you. Actually, Brad Eggenberg?
Yes.
Yeah, I know. You know Brad.
Brad and I had dinner last week.
There you go. Brad called me up. He said, hey, I saw you filed this lawsuit. It's a premise liability case, and you filed it right in the Eastern District. And I was like, yeah. He's like, why would you do that? And I was like, well, I need the money now. I don't want to wait. I know it's going to get removed. It's cheaper. It's easier. I can just go serve the hotel. And so he was like, that's when Brad was really transitioning into PI too. And so we kind of got to help each other out a little bit. So I sublet a space from him for 8 months or 9 months, or maybe longer. And so that was like a big role. So I owe a lot to Brad for that. He kind of got me out of that office at home, which now that I know myself as like a business owner, that was never going to work. Never in a million years am I the kind of guy who can like, WFH, right? COVID came and I didn't miss a single day. I'm like, my wife was like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm going downtown. And she's like, why?
There's traffic.
She's like, there's COVID. I was like, I know, but my clients don't care about COVID.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I was telling you right before we started, I think if I had to do it over again, I would not have been so risk adverse. So what I did is I took $2,000 and I loaned it from myself to the law firm. I said, okay, here's your $2,000 to start your firm so you can go open a bank account. Because I didn't have any money. I didn't have any money coming in. And I think that, being so adverse to credit, so adverse to risk, probably kind of slowed us down a bit. And so like you're working with a marketing company, which I want to hear all about. I probably waited 9-10 months before I did that. Huge mistake. So in a lot of ways, that first year of the law firm was a bit of me just kind of like figuring things out. Mm-hmm. So back to you, because I really want to hear more about how you're going. So you started 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
But now you've been practicing law for a long time.
I have.
You're in the industry. You are known as a trucking litigator, right? I know you have a CDL, right? Did I make that up?
No, I went to trucking school. It takes 6 weeks to get your CDL.
Okay.
So I did not stay the full 6 weeks. So I didn't actually need a CDL. Okay. But I did need to know how trucks worked.
Okay. So you're coming in at a much better position. So tell me about your first 2 weeks.
They've been a whirlwind.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate that I have cases, so that's a good thing.
That's right.
But I also have to be equipped to handle the cases.
Yes.
So it's been a lot of the business side. I wasn't worried about how to be a lawyer. I've done plaintiff's work for 13 years. Like, that part is easy. But I didn't know how to be a business owner, and I'm still learning that. So it's, getting insurance, setting up bank accounts, getting lines of credit if you need them.
Right.
Still continuing to market yourself because you have to bring in more cases.
Right.
So it's a lot of hats.
It's a lot of hats. And I'm actually going to give a CLE on this tomorrow. And one of my points is every business owner starts wearing every hat. At one point in time, I built out the IT here. I built out all the systems, right? So we started with Outlook and, Microsoft 365. And, I was the accountant. I was the CPA. I was the bookkeeper. I was a very bad bookkeeper. And, I was in charge of hiring and firing, in charge of the legal work. I was the paralegal. I was the secretary. I was the, whatever you can imagine. And I even built our own website on like a free service, like Wix, I think is what it's called. And it was atrocious. It was like an atrocious website. Even for 10 years ago, it was like an abomination. And so as the business grows, you can start taking off hats one at a time. And I think that's really the best thing. But if everybody who starts, unless you're starting, some of these guys, like, hey, you see some competitors out there who get like a lot of money and they just open up their firm. I'm not going to name names. But a lot of these guys, most regular people, when they start a business, you start with all the hats.
Yes.
And I think it's great because as you're going to grow your firm. And as you grow your firm, you'll be able to say, like I do around here, there's nothing anyone here is doing that didn't used to be my job. And so I know how the IT systems work. I mean, now, look, we've gotten more sophisticated. So in fairness, like I don't really know how to send faxes right now. But, I mean, I'll live. I mean, I can teach me, I guess, if I have to. But there's nothing, I'm not asking anyone to do anything that at one point in time I did 100% of.
Yeah.
And then that really helps. So it helps you to have like a deeper understanding of like what it is that's happening, and it helps it helps with credibility to be like, quit bitching. It's not that hard. I did it forever. Come on. So I like that, and I like that idea of just sort of taking off the hats. I'm a member of like a marketing company, and they do some like business coaching with me, and they do this thing. And so it's like, what am I good at, and what do I like doing? Okay, what do I like doing, but I'm not so good at? Mm-hmm. What am I not good at and I really don't like? And whatever that is, like that's the one they're like, circle that. Somebody else out there would love to have that job.
And get rid of it first.
Right. Like that's low-lying fruit, right? So just get rid of that. And, for me, that was actually bookkeeping. For years, we toiled with me as like a shitty bookkeeper where my CPA would be like, oh my God, Justin, that's not how it works. I was like, well, look, I don't have a business degree. I have a psychology degree and a law degree, So we offloaded that onto a fractional bookkeeper, and that was monumental because then the other exercise would be like, how much of that time, are you doing like a minute a day, or and then like get over it? Exactly. Are you doing multiple hours a week? Well, I was doing, a full-time bookkeeper for a law firm, and in those days, we were pretty big at that point. It was like the full-time bookkeeper for 6 lawyers. And I remember Mike, my partners, was like, Justin, I'm not trying to tell you how to run your business here, but you're like the most highly qualified, overpaid bookkeeper in history. Maybe you should consider that. And so we did. So that was like offloading that hat, like started like a domino effect when I was like, oh my God, I just freed up 30 hours of my day. 30 hours of my week. Right. So
That's like that book, Buy Back Your Time.
it is. It's Buy Back Your. Did you read it?
Yes.
I started reading it, and then I was like, I'm going to get Audible because I don't have the time.
I listened to it.
So I was like, I'm going to get an Audible subscription. And now I'm trying to figure out how to cancel my Audible subscription because I've still never listened to it. I do know the theory. I read like the general. You know what? I was that kind of student. I studied very hard for tests, but I wasn't afraid of using Cliff Notes or what was when I was in college, like the Harvard kids came out with their own version of Cliff Notes. I can't remember what they were called.
Spark Notes?
Yeah, something like that.
Yes. We're having to go way back.
Yeah,
for
it
these
was like
memories.
it was like the 90s. I wasn't afraid of just bullshitting my way through it. I never realized I was going to be a lawyer, and looking back on it, I'm like, dude, you were always going to be a lawyer. You just didn't realize it. But yeah, I mean, you need to buy back your time eventually. But in these first few weeks, you're going to have to wear all the hats.
Yes.
But I would say enjoy it because it's like this is what because you're going to look back on this 10 years from now and you're going to be like, well, that was dumb. That was a waste of money. That was a waste of time. But I never would have been here if I hadn't been there. Right? Like I never would have been the person today if I hadn't had to. Like now I know when someone calls me with a custody case, I'm like, no, I absolutely not. That'll never happen. I don't. Even if it were my own kids, I'd be like, no, just take them. I'm not getting in that fight. But you gotta make those mistakes early on.
Yes.
For me, that's how I learned, through a little bit of trial and error, and then I can look back and like pontificate and be like, oh, it's the best way to do it, really. But
I don't think there's any way to avoid it.
No, there isn't.
You just have to live through the pain.
There isn't. So what inspired you to start Louisiana Law Lady?
So I have been working towards it for a couple of years. I was marketing myself. I was at a big firm.
Because that's what I thought. Because I'd seen Louisiana Law Lady stuff, but then I knew where you were too at that other firm, and so I was like, well, is she here or is she? Okay, so that's what you were starting that.
And not really with the desire at that point to go out on my own. I just wanted to bring in my own cases.
Okay.
And establish my own book of business. I would make more money if I originated the case.
Right, that's how it is here too.
And I wanted some security as well, to know that I could bring in business if I needed to, and I didn't have to rely on somebody else. But I was very happy at the firm. So that was not my original goal.
Right.
But in time,
you just get more cases, and then you start looking at it. So I always encourage the lawyers here that they should be out there hustling cases. I was like, I pay them a much larger, more than anybody in town is willing to pay them. I do that on purpose. I don't have to worry about them being unhappy. I'm like, you'll never, I'm paying you more than everybody else, and you know it. But it's because as someone who markets, and you know how expensive the marketing is, I want you to get those cases because it's a good case. A lot of times sometimes they're more valuable. Mm-hmm. There's this like misconception. People talking marketing, they're like, everybody knows your best cases come from referrals, and I'm like, I don't know that that's always true. I know that that's something that marketers tell you. Your most expensive cases come from referrals. I'll tell you that. Right, so having to pay back a third is a whole lot more than having to pay.
You can buy a lot of marketing for 1/3 of the fee.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, that's people who say that aren't as deep in the industry as they think they are.
Yeah.
But still, it did come in the door, and you didn't have to pay for it, and they're not usually like the worst. But I found the biggest thing that helped me when I got started was just telling everybody, the Chopin Law Firm is open for business. I am open for business. And I was shocked at the reaction I got. As a defense lawyer, that would never happen, right? So if you're like, I'm open for business, I'm XYZ insurance defense firm, you're not going to get calls from other defense lawyers being like, let me help you out.
Right. Never
in a million years. But on the plaintiff's bar, I was getting calls left and right being like, hey, Justin, let me help you out. Now, look, no one's going to be like, let me help you out. Here's this case that I've been nursing forever and it's worth a fortune. Right? You're going to have to do some ugly stuff, right? But they were still willing to help. And if you had the guts for it and you could handle it, then they were going to give you the case and you can make money from it and use that to grow.
That's probably been the most encouraging thing of the last 2 weeks is the amount of people that have reached out.
They're going to.
It's shocking. Just out of the woodwork, the phone rings, or I get a text, or I get an email.
Yeah.
How can I help? People are so excited. They're so encouraging.
I was freaked out the first month and then was really happy, after that. Once I got over the panic, what I did was after that first month, I went and I looked at the bank account and I said, okay, that's more money than you would have made last month at your defense firm. So you don't need to be, because I think a lot of times, especially in the plaintiff's bar, but even some defense lawyers these days, you see so much flash. And so you're always thinking like, what am I doing wrong? Like, how do I get there? Oh, I want that powder coat painted, Range Rover, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do I get there? And, I think it's a distraction from the real goal, because what you really want, it's not the car, the house. What you really want is stability, right? What you really want is like good, honest business growth, like
right.
a nice, steady growth that's sustainable, that's not artificial.
Yes.
And that's how I am. Like, I'm very risk adverse. I don't go to casinos. I don't win at casinos. Yes, thank God. And so what makes me happy is stability and knowing that's like, okay, we're growing, but we're doing it the right way. And I don't have to worry about, next month laying half the people off that had no business hiring to begin with. Instead, it's like, okay, I know that we will have a need for you for a long time, and so I think that sometimes you get that distraction, but I look at it and say, okay, am I doing at least as good? Maybe it don't have to be better because it's new, right? Am I doing at least kind of maybe what I would have done as a defense lawyer?
Yeah, I think that's a good metric. If that's what you came from.
That's all I know, right? That's all I knew. And so our firm is structured like a defense firm because we're all a bunch of defense lawyers, so we don't really know any better. And so I tell all the lawyers when they start here, I was like, look, your metric for success should be, what did you make 8 years in as a defense firm, as a defense lawyer? And, you should be plus minus that. Are you really minus that? Then let's figure it out. Are you plus? Then don't worry about it. And you got nothing. Man, you made all that money. You didn't have to bill a single hour.
Right.
Because the rest is going to come. And then the next year you watch them and they're like, oh my God. And then the next year it really comes together. But I still use that as a metric. Where would I be if I was still practicing on the defense? Where am I in line with that?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that plaintiffs' lawyers there's always outliers, but I don't know that plaintiffs' lawyers always make so much more than defense lawyers. I think it just comes in a different way. Defense lawyers are sort of this long, steady sort of, growth, and plaintiffs' lawyers have these peaks and valleys. I think if you were to shrink it out, you would plot a pretty similar path.
Yeah.
With the exception of that outlier case, that like $1 million
right.
fee that comes, once a lifetime, or hopefully more than once a lifetime. But, I don't know. That is my take on it. I'm more comfortable living like that than chasing the Range Rover. Plus, man, my kids would destroy that thing. I got my daughter. So like all kids are going to put their wrappers in the car.
They love wrappers.
My kid, do you have kids?
3.
So mine are 7 and 9. And so what she does, she opens the handle and then she shoves like the door and then she shoves it in there. And I keep on like, Marco, that is not where that goes. Actually, you could put that wrapper anywhere else. Like I wouldn't even care if you threw it on the ground. It would be easier for me to pick up. Shoving it in the cavity of the handle to the car makes it virtually, I was like, my hand won't even fit in there. So man, I can't even imagine what they would do to that, fine European machinery.
It would be gone. I actually bought a little trash can just for the minivan.
Yeah.
And they would throw trash everywhere around it.
Yeah, that's right.
Like a game.
Sure.
Like, how can I miss the trash can?
Yeah, we used to do that when you take it to the safari. They used to give you the little bag.
Yeah.
That you would like on the stick shift. My grandmother used to have those. Oh, that was so cool. So, what kind of work are you doing? Are you doing the same kind of work?
Yes. So I have in the PI space. I've always done mostly auto and trucking wrecks. I've done some premises, but my specialty was more car accidents.
Okay.
And then over the years, that transitioned into trucking. And we referenced that earlier with the trucking school. For probably the last 10 years, I've been focusing on trucking cases.
Okay. And so tell me about the trucking school. So what was the thought process there?
I was going to depositions and talking to these truck drivers, and they were just talking a language that I didn't understand, and they lived in a world that I didn't understand. So I decided it's time to learn.
There you go. Okay. I like that. So you just, you go to like trucking school?
I did.
Like, so how long is trucking school?
Trucking school is 6 weeks.
Okay.
But I didn't need a CDL.
Right.
So I just called up the trucking school and said, I just want to come drive trucks for a while.
I'm going to audit this course. I don't want it for credit, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I want to audit this. And then they asked me a lot of questions, and I told them the truth. I was like, well, I'd like to sue your clients better.
Yeah. I really want to do a better job with the vendors that you work with.
So that took some cajoling. They did not really want to let me come. Okay. But I went down in person, and I talked my way into it. And so I just went for a week.
Okay. Very cool.
And it was a blast.
And now when you're deposing a truck driver, you have a better sense of understanding as to what it is they're talking about.
And I can talk to him or her in their language, frequently leaving the defense attorney out of it. You know, most defense attorneys don't know. They don't.
Right. A lot of them.
And in their defense, it's hard for them to learn because they're billing by the hour, so they can't spend all of this time developing their own personal knowledge bank.
Right. Right. Nobody's going to pay them, though they should. The insurance companies should do that.
They absolutely should. But you did defense work. You know they're not paying you for that.
No, they're not paying me for anything. Hey, that was one of the reasons I wanted to be a plaintiff's lawyer. I remember having 2 cases at the same time. One was total BS. This woman was walking out. She's walking out of the Dollar General.
It's always the Dollar General.
Yeah, right. She's walking out of the dojo, and she says that this, like, I guess, like, gutter, for lack of a better term, hits her on the head. And then she's got a picture of it. And then the picture she has submitted to this thing is, like, cast iron. I'm like, ma'am, in no fucking world did that hit. I was like, so I'm deposing her.
Of course, cast iron gutters we have around
here. Yeah, I was like, I'm deposing her. The poor defendant's already lost. I'm in for the insurer for the primary target. So like, I'm in it no matter what, right? The property owner is in it, the dojo's in it, and then there's like a leasing agent. And the poor leasing agent has nothing to do with any of this. They just have their sign on the space next door for lease. So they filed their summary judgment. It's in CDC, and the judge is like, well, I don't know, it could be an issue of fact. The most absurd thing I've ever heard. That judge is no longer on the bench, so I can talk all the shit I want. It was the dumbest thing. I was just laughing in the back, thinking, but he could have done a better job. It was a young lawyer, and they're like, you can't lose, or it's one of those. I'm like, no, you can absolutely lose, and you did. That's the kiss of death. Right. So I'm taking her deposition, and it's just like, yeah, it came down and it hit me. And I was like, well, like, did it like knock you over? She's like, no, I didn't fall. And I was like, well, did it like break your nose? She's like, no. I was like, did it like crush your skull? She's like, no. I was like, well, I don't understand. Like, what? I don't see any. I was like, that's a very heavy pipe. And to boot, it wasn't like a small, she was like 20 feet long, right? So this thing would have like killed this woman. And she's like, well, I got like this mark right here. So I'm like advising my insurer. I was like, the plaintiff's lawyer on this case is an idiot. She does not have the ability to try this case. The claim is completely bogus. Something could have hit her, but that wasn't it, And so they're like, fine, they put this aside. At the same time, I have another case. This woman slips and falls at Brothers Food Mart on really wet floor. I mean, it's like water's pouring in. It's a mess. And it's one of those falls where like her feet come above her head. It's all on video. She fractured her hands, and so she had Dr. George try to like put her back together again, but she had complete clawed hands now, right? And the plaintiff's lawyer I knew is a very well-respected plaintiff's lawyer. He absolutely would try the case and would win. And so those are the 2 cases that I'm reporting back to the same insurer on. On the stupid one, they're like, Justin, you got to settle this case. We need out. You have authority for like $25,000. Like $25,000. I don't remember how much the authority was. This is years ago. And then the other one, that's a great case. It's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I advised them. I did like a whole quantum for them. I was like, look, this is your exposure. You could be anywhere from 3, you could be up 7, and I could see exposure anyway. If you try it, you might have, this is a long time. It was before a lot of these 7-figure verdicts we're seeing now. But they're like, yeah, I don't buy it. And also, we're not paying for you to do a quantum study. You should have gotten that pre-approved. And so they're like, see if he'll take, something stupid like $12,000. So me being the salesman, I called him up. I said, hey, Leo, what's up, man? I was like, look, I got good news. Client wants to settle the case. So what do you say? Let's just get this thing done. You know, $12,000, send you the check. Don't worry about it. Well, of course, we'll do the usual release. And he just chewed me out for like 20 minutes.
Rightly so.
Rightly so. Yeah, like, I was fine with it. I knew that was going to happen, but you know, anything worth doing, right? So if you're going to sell it, just go sell it, you know? And so, so then they're like, yeah, well, he don't want to settle and he has a lot of choice words for you. I think you're just going to have to set the case up. So we get closer and closer to trial. And they said, well, this is once they realize how big their exposure is, they're like, I mean, this is insane. You're telling me we could have exposure of $500,000 or more?
Which of course you've already told them.
Did you even do a quantum on this case? And that's when I was like, you know what? Because they cut my bill and I was like, I think this is stupid. Like I should be a plaintiff's lawyer. Why am I screwing around these horrible insurance defendants? And so that's where, you know, in law school, I thought about it.
Yeah.
But this was where I was like, no, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore.
Because it's miserable.
These guys are awful. So now look, we're here and everything, you know, and I would take that case any day of the week and I would not, you know, I would not hesitate to try that case.
Yes, that's a great case.
It was a good case. Other one, no good. And I don't even know that other lawyer, I don't even think that lawyer's practicing anymore. So I digress. So I don't know. I don't remember where we got started on that, but I like being a plaintiff's lawyer. I like representing individuals. I like not having to answer to the worst human beings on earth. And you can feel good about the work you do. You can have a reward in the work you do. But your problem is you have to be a business owner and a lawyer.
Yes.
And that's hard. That is hard to do. So how are you balancing both the litigation aspect and the operations?
Well, right now, obviously, I'm in the weeds because
You're in the weeds.
It's 2 weeks in.
Yeah.
So I have to set up the systems. And a lot of it's done. You know, I've already got office space.
There you go.
Email system.
Where's your office?
Right down the street from you, 700 Camp.
Oh, great spot.
Yeah,
and a lot of good people to coordinate with. Yes. Yeah, I know a lot of people that used to be there.
Why I picked that space, because I still wanted to be able to collaborate.
And I don't think any of those people that are there are really doing that kind of work. So,
not exclusively.
Yeah, I think
some
that,
of them dabble in it. You've got criminal defense.
Right. That's the ones I know.
Some
they're
retired
all
judges.
criminal.
Some people running for judge. There's a good mix.
Yeah, that's good. Oh, well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
So that's interesting to see someone start knowing as much as you do. When I started, I knew nothing. So I think that that's a lot of fun. So you're getting your marketing up and running.
Yes.
And you're working with a company for doing that.
Yeah, so that's been in place for a while because I've just I've had social media for a couple of years now.
Okay.
So that was already a machine that was running, which is great because now I don't have to start that. That's already off my plate.
Yeah, that was I stalled on that. I was worried about spending the money, but I mean, I tried my own. Someone told me, they were like, you can do your own Google ads. It's not hard. That's ridiculous. It is hard.
Yes.
And you were wasting your time to try to do so. We used to get calls. It was me. We get calls that were wrong numbers, right? And so they're like, hey, is this Chip Forstall? As an example. I'd be like, so when I first did it, I was like, no, this is, the Chopin law firm. And they were like, oh, sorry, click. So I was like,
and then you probably paid $400 for that.
Right. And so I was like, well, that didn't go well. And so the next time, the phone rings and I was like, all right, do better, Justin. They're like, hey, is this Chip Forstall? It's not really Chip Forstall. I don't remember who it was. Probably was. And so this time I say, hey, no, it's not. It's Justin Chopin, but I'm a personal injury lawyer. How can I help? And they're like, I was trying to call Chip Forstall. Click. And so the next time, third call, I hear someone down the hall, and they're like, law office. And I thought, man, I always used to hate that, but I could see where it might have some application here. And so the third call, they're like, hey, is this Joe? So I answer, I'm like, law office. And they're like, yeah, I got hurt, in an accident. I'm like, awesome. Well, you've done the right thing. We can help you with this. And we're like, what's your name? And I was like, my name's Justin. Listen, don't worry about my name. What's your name? And so that's how I learned how to do intake. You get a few calls, nothing works out. Yes. And then you just like, I'm never going to say that again. That's where I learned, like, never make a joke, right? They don't think it's funny, right? You learn that the hard way. Now we don't have to do that anymore. So there's no more law office. We've officially established ourselves.
That's great. People mean to call you now.
Yeah, like they mean to call us, or if maybe they didn't mean to, but we're committed to who we are. We don't have the dysmorphic disorder of law firm, dysmorphic disorder, So, but, so I still control a lot of intake. I love intake. I live and breathe it. I was thinking the other day I should teach a class on intake. One of these days I'll get a director to oversee it. But for now, I'm still very much where what happened? Why didn't you sign that case? Where is it? Yeah. Where is he? What's wrong with it?
Do y'all do intake in-house or you have a separate company that does
No,
it?
I do it in-house. I don't trust any outsourced company to do it for me.
I mean, it's the most important part of the firm is getting in the case. So I would feel the same way.
How are you handling your intake?
I answer the
just
phone.
like me. Yeah. Okay. So you know what? You just can't beat that. And for the better cases, you really need it. I don't know. I mean, I assume that average consumer is a lot like me. I know when I'm talking to a call center.
Yes, you can tell immediately.
You can hear it. There's a lot of call centers, but do you know that I can hear an entire row of cubicles right now? You just know it, and I'm immediately turned off, right? And so, no, for the longest time, there was a time here where we had multiple lawyers, and I still was running intake. It's one of those hats, right? And that was the hardest hat to take off because I do love it. They used to call me the golden tongue, right? Because they could never close the deal, and I'd just come in and, we would get to a point where I would listen in to some of their calls and be like, okay, I noticed you didn't sign that case. There's a reason, you probably don't realize it yet. Let's talk about it. So I'd make them listen to the calls. And I'd be like, so how do you think that went? And they were like, not good. I was like, no, it didn't go well. And
it's painful because that could be a huge loss.
We totally lost tons of good cases in those days, but that's okay because now we really know that there's a science to this. I always tell people, don't worry about the facts of the case because you'll hear the new ones that are like, now what lane were you in exactly?
Right, well,
if he was in front of you and you were coming, I was like, don't do that, because you know what, people internalize that as you really not having a lot of faith in their case. They're very much turned off by it, and so I was like, all you need to find out is, are you hurt?
Yes.
Number one, was it within the last, year or 2 years, depending on what you're dealing with? And you got insurance? Did they stop? Did they have insurance? No, you're not sure? It's close enough. I was like,
we'll find out.
Right, we'll find out. Did you get their license plate? Great. That's it. That's all you got to know. And then you just got to tell them, hey, listen, I always train my team. The very first thing that comes out of your mouth should be an affirmation that they've done the right thing. Well, you've done the right thing because this is exactly the kind of work we do. And we're going to help you with this. Let me just ask a couple of questions, and that's it. And now they have the confidence, or sometimes I'll listen. They're like, well, I don't know if we can handle that. I have to ask my boss. And I was like, well, Jesus, don't do that. Can you imagine calling a doctor? Calling a doctor and be like, well, I've got this problem. They're like, what's going on? I was like, well, I'm bleeding out of my ears. And they're like, oh, I don't know if I can handle that. I'd have to talk to my, chief resident. I'm like, well, wait, what are you?
That's not what they want to hear.
Right, exactly. So
because part of the reason they're calling is to shift the burden that they are carrying onto someone else.
Absolutely. So I was meeting with a defense lawyer here the other day who has a case that they need help with. And like all defense lawyers, they were like, no, I'm going to handle this myself. I was like, why did you? Don't wait so long. And so she comes in with this binder, right? And she's got everything. And I had to tell, I was like, so one of the things we can offer you is sort of this ability to not have to keep a binder, right? So I was like, or a lot of times, especially at the hurricane clients, when we did all the hurricane stuff, I mean, people were keeping, the expandex folders, they've got it. I was like, you don't need to do that anymore. But I got a whole team of people who love to nerd out with file folders. I was like, you can just, don't worry about it. Just put it out of your mind. Go do something else, go see a movie or not to make light of it, go meet with contractors, and start picking out finishes and kind of figuring out what you want to do with your house, not this other house. So it was like the administration, that's what we do, right? We're lawyers, we're experts at organizing paper.
Yes.
It's like our superpower. But you're right. So it's something that we can offer them. So you don't need to do this anymore. This is our job. So, well, I talked too much. They told me this thing, so they're telling me my time is up. Lauren Pilié, Louisiana law lady, trucking specialists, but all forms of auto accidents.
Yes.
Right. We're not, tell all of our millions and millions of viewers who want, she is a direct competitor. So that's fine. That's okay. But tell them where they can find you.
So I'm on all the socials under Louisiana Law Lady. My website is lalawlady.com. And my cell phone number, which I put on everything, is 504-470-3511.
We'll have it for anyone watching.
Oh, thanks.
We'll scroll it across the bottom. Well, hey, thank you so much for coming. It was great meeting you. Congratulations.
Yes, you too. Thank you.
Stay in touch because I want to hear how it goes. When you get to your first pain point of okay, I'm here now. I can't get here. Mm-hmm. Just call me.
Because I know it's coming.
It's coming. It's coming before you even know it. Mine always come when I'm not suspecting it, right? I'll wake up one day. I'm like, I'm going to have the best day today. And then I walk into the office and everyone's like, your staff all quit today. I was like, oh, what? So it's coming. It's coming for you, but you're going to love it.
Yes.
So,
well, thank you. Thank you for the support.
Thanks
Thank
for coming
you for having
on.
me.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for joining me today on Above the Legal Limit. If you enjoyed the show and you want to hear more about business and law, hit that subscribe button. If you didn't like the show, keep it to yourself. Remember, there's no limit to what we can achieve. We will see you next week. Until then, even though we're above the legal limit, let's drive safely. Cheers, everyone.